From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Good afternoon and welcome everybody, and we are so glad to have you here at the Library of Congress for this unique opportunity with Edoardo Albinati, one of the most interesting and original contemporary Italian writers, but intellectual in general. I need to thank you, Edoardo Albinati, for being here, accepting our invitation. I know you have a lot of appointments around town, so making time for this was very generous of you. And I also want to mention our co-sponsors who made this event possible, New Academia Publishing, and especially Dr. Anna Lawton, and Italians in DC, and the book club Parolab. Finally, of course, I need to mention the Italian Embassy and the Italian Cultural Institute, who are also participating in this event. Excuse me, I'm just going to get organized a bit, but let's start with a difficult introduction of Edoardo Albinati, because your career is very impressive and you are, I believe, a Renaissance man, we could say, in some ways.
I didn't realize there was a Renaissance in Italy. So if I am one of these men, I'm very proud, just because it means that there is a Renaissance.
Let's hope there is a Renaissance, and there was. Dr. Albinati was born in Rome in 1956. He comes from a northern Italian family. His mother was from Piemonte, and the father's family was from Lombardy in Italy. That is the northern part of Italy. He attended the private school of San Leone Magno, in the so-called Quartiere Africano di Roma. It is called Quartiere Africano.
Quartiere Trieste.
Quartiere Trieste, non il quartiere africano in particolare. Okay. The streets are named after African countries, but Quartiere Trieste is sulla Nomentana. Okay. He is here to celebrate with us his award-winning novel, for which he won the Premio Strega in 2016, and we are talking about his neighborhood and his background, because that is a significant part of his latest novel.
Yes, that is the best part, maybe, of this neighborhood.
Coppede.
Coppede, yes.
Quartiere Coppede.
Realized in a sort of late Liberty style.
Mm-hmm. Very fun to wander around that Quartiere Coppede and notice all the various fountains, and so
very good for as a set for horror movies.
Dario Argento.
Yeah, Dario Argento.
Certo.
Dario Argento shot his first movies there.
Yeah. So I want to do something slightly different here. We're not going to only concentrate on his latest novel, because I'm happy to say that we have almost every book written by Edoardo in our collections here at the library. There are a couple missing, but maybe I can acquire them in the next future. So I want to focus on your overall career, rather, and talk about also some other books, some Svenimenti, Sintassi Italiana, because I think that is as interesting as your latest novel for us here at the Library of Congress in America. So we were talking about San Leone Magno, the private Catholic school he attended, but you also attended Il Giulio Cesare for the last period of your high school years. This is all very important. We're touching upon it because, again, it's so much part, Rome is so much part of your works in general. And in particular, these places, these locales are so much important for his latest novels. They're almost the main characters at time in the latest novel.
That's correct.
So Giulio Cesare is also a very particular high school, and it became iconic in our culture, right? Because there was an assault, a terrorist assault at the Liceo Giulio Cesare in the 1980s. Rome at the time, Edoardo was growing up and frequenting these schools and going to the Giulio Cesare, that was later, 1980, was a very complicated place to live in because of all the terrorist attacks, but also the student movements and feminist movements and protests every day, but mainly because these were the years in which Italy and Rome saw this very tragic phenomenon of the anni di piombo, the so-called lead years. We will talk some more about that. So, I am moving on. We keep all these main bits in mind because they're going to be part of our conversation later. But Dr. Albinati graduated from Rome's University La Sapienza, which is also my alma mater, and with a thesis supervised by Walter Pedulla, who was a very important and is still an emeritus professor at the University of Rome. The University of Rome had some of the most, the finest Italian literary minds and historians of the 20th century, and so it was honestly a wonderful place to study and work in spite of the terrorist attacks and that might have created, and the protests that might have created some fragmentary experiences. So, as I was saying, Albinati is a Renaissance man in the sense that he isn't only a novelist, he isn't only a poet, but he also translated some important works, English works, into Italian. Nabokov is one of them, if I recall, and also Milton.
I adapted Milton for the theater. It was not really a translation.
Okay,
It's
right.
impossible to translate.
Yes, but
Really.
that is...
I just cut and paste.
okay, wonderful. So
very freely. Very
Freely.
free,
well,
adaptation.
you have to with Milton. And
But I like that very much.
I love-
like very much cutting, more than translating.
okay.
Cutting and translating. Adaptation is something a little different from translation, translate. But it's a good work for a writer.
Yes, learning the
Yeah.
inner dynamics of
Mhm.
writing, and so we were saying it would take me a very long time to mention all the various not jobs but professions that Dr. Albinati and has been doing. Screenplay writer, radio broadcaster, editor, literary critic, novelist, essayist, poet, and also a reporter, a reportage in Afghanistan. So, but one of the other main jobs that Edoardo is known for is he teaches in Rome's prison Rebibbia. So it's a very important part of your professional life, and I think you are still doing that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's actually all the other jobs I did them for a while. This one is the only
Right.
one that I still do after
And you
24 years.
And you teach Italian?
Italian and history.
Okay.
Mhm.
Wonderful.
But more Italian, because history I don't know history very well, so I prefer to focus on language and literature.
Right, and one of the works we're going to focus on, Maggio Selvaggio, is also about your work at Rebibbia. Since 1984, he collaborated also with the literary journal Nuovi Argomenti. Collaborated as an editor, you redattore.
I think I stopped in this year.
Okay. All right. So I have.
I quit in this year.
Okay. So I have to.
I have very confused idea about my career. As I
That's
told you, when I saw all the books there, I don't have many of them, so very happy that
wonderful.
in some place they are kept. And
We'll do some fact checking, which is something that we are all doing very often. These are maybe real facts, but we need to look into this particular. So I mentioned Nuovi Argomenti because it is also part of our collections here at the library. I happened to find the first 2 numbers of Nuovi Argomenti, which was founded in 1953 by Alberto Moravia and Alberto Perocci, two giants of Italian literature.
that's why I'm sorry.
Yes, please
to
interrupt
you,
me. No, please.
because I'm sure since Moravia died in 1990, I quit. So
Okay.
that's
So it's
that's for sure.
1990.
Yeah.
Okay. By that time, you had quit.
Yeah.
Your first novel, Il polacco lavatore di vetri, The Polish Windshield Cleaner, was published by Longanesi in 1989, and it provided material for a movie which was directed by Peter Del Monte and released in 1998. We will talk more about this novel, but you went on to write other novels. Svenimenti, published by Einaudi in 2004, Tutt'al più muoio with Filippo Timi, and published by Fandango in 2006, and which we do not have yet, and I was telling you that I would love to acquire it. Dr. Albinati also wrote collections of short stories, starting with his very first one is Arabeschi della vita morale, another item that is not yet in our collections, but we have almost everything. Orti di Guerra followed in 1997, followed by 19, which we also have outside in our display, Voci nel buio in 2005, by the publisher Carta, right? We received 920 books, a donation from Carta when they closed in 2014, and Giuseppe Liverani was here for that occasion. So I noticed that in particular, and I think it's important to tie in publishers, authors, and you know, the milieu of the whole situation and context. Anyway, progressing with Dr. Albinati's career as an intellectual and a writer, he wrote another short story collection, Guerra la tristezza, published in 2009. Sorry, I was switching to Italian. Published in 2009 by Fandango again, which seems to be one of your main publishers.
It's 100 meters from my house.
Okay.
That's the main reason I publish some of my books there.
That's
It's
great.
in the Quartiere Trieste.
Yes, practical
Very
as well. But he also wrote poetry. So we don't only have prose, but poetry. Sintassi Italiana, published in 2002. And he wrote autobiographic works such as Maggio Selvaggio, which we mentioned before, refers to his work as a teacher in the prison of Rebibbia, not to mention his exceptional reportage from Afghanistan, Il ritorno, diario di una missione in Afghanistan, published in 2002. Now, this doesn't do you justice, but I just needed a brief introduction, and we will move on to the next phase of our event, which is our conversation proper. But I love the fact that you interrupt me, and please continue to do that, because it will flow more as a conversation and help me relax a little bit more. So, first of all, a very brief personal question. And I'm very curious about this. How did your family happen to move to Rome, to be in Rome, from northern Italy? I'm always curious about people coming to Rome.
I
And
must confess that I don't know. I never studied my family history, and my parents were very short. They gave us short of informations about their past.
okay.
I only know that my father was the son of a builder, and Rome was a good place to work. So there was a strong immigration in Rome, not only from the south, as is usually thought, but also from the north. So many northerner came to Rome to this town was like. Rome was, I think, 80,000 people when it became the capital
The
of
capital
Italy.
of Italy, yeah.
And to become a metropole like it is now, it means that they have built and and many, I think that maybe 20% of the population are immigrated, have immigrated
From
in town.
elsewhere.
My father was an engineer, so he was not, let's say, a worker, but he made projects and made money as well with this typical. It's quite a typical character of Rome, the builder. In this milieu, in this the middle, the
Upper middle
upper
class.
middle class in Rome, the builders were important.
Yes.
Now they declined, but especially in the years in the 50s and 60s, some of them were good and made a lot of money. My father, not too much, but much more than me in many ways.
This is interesting because Rome is, again, much part of your work in general, and it has a very interesting history also of being a capital like Washington, D.C., with few people who are really seventh-generation Roman or seventh-generation Washington, D.C., and so I just wanted to remark on that. You lived in Rome. You were born in Rome, you grew up in Rome, and you lived in Rome throughout your life. But you lived through one of the most difficult times in modern history, the so-called lead years, anni di piombo. Rome was an epicenter, but the anni di piombo affected all of Italy, Milan, Turin, and so forth. How did that period mark you, and what do you recall of it?
Well, this period has been called the lead years by the press, by movies, but I would like to correct this idea or this, let's say, idée fixe, saying that this period was probably a period of lead and gold at the same time. So it was not only a period of violence, or the violence at the same time produced good and bad things. I was not really affected. I was 20, let's say, I was 20 something when all this started to happen. Was not the organized terrorism, the military groups like Brigate Rosse, NAV, from the left and from the right. I was more interested and affected and directly involved in the fact that that period during this period it was very easy to kill for small groups. You didn't need to belong to strong organization, revolutionary. You could just, as I tell in my book, my last book, you can just spend one afternoon deciding with your schoolmates who do you want to kill the day after, taking from a list of enemies, political enemies. some of them quite casually chosen, others like symbols, other just person you personally hate.
Right.
This was the main issue.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that death was so easy to administer, to give, and sometimes to be given.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that happened especially in this neighborhood
Mm-hmm.
that was apparently built just to be a very safe and calm
Mm-hmm.
and bourgeois
Mm-hmm.
neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
with like it was built with the purpose of nothing happening,
Mm-hmm.
nothing except having ladies with small dogs around, or people
Walking,
running and
yes,
walking,
yes.
and
Because it's near Villa Borghese
yeah,
also, so
it's
in a very
a residential
part
place,
of town. Yes.
quite neutral.
Yes.
And that's probably exactly this fact, this neutrality that attracted these forces. It's what it was like.
A haven?
Sometimes I make a comparison with the sport, a ring or a sport field in which nothing is there, but everybody can happen because there are two different teams that are
Yes.
they fight there, and it was quite impressive because from let's say from 75 to 82 there were more people killed, let's say left and far wing militants, policemen, judges,
Politicians. Aldo Moro.
girls,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
in this place. And but the first great crime was not a political one, or maybe it was a political one, but it was a sexual crime, the one that is at the center of my book.
Yes. So I was setting the stage also for violence, because violence, as you say, it was ubiquitous. This sense of violence. So,
That's why Dario Argento,
Yes.
in a way, understood the hidden quality of this place,
Right.
the subterranean violence that was inside this building.
I don't know if everybody knows about the latest novel we are talking about, La Scuola Cattolica. So would you like to just introduce, because we were talking about 1975, about this episode that is at the center of your book?
Yeah, it's not the main argument, the main topic
No.
of the book, but is actually correct to say that it's the center of the book, and it's the only reason why I wrote this book instead of another one. The fact that in this school, Salone Magno, some students 1 year older than me, in September 75, so the school was over actually for us. We were out of school. We were at the university, or starting with the university, with college. They kidnapped two girls. They brought these girls in a place close to Rome, to the sea, a very beautiful, but at the same time quite scaring place called Circeo, Monte Circeo, the mount of the ancient magician Circe. And they abducted these two girls there, and during a 2 days and a half orgy, they raped and killed them, but to say better, they killed just one of these two girls, but they thought that they were killed, both of them.
Yes.
Then they put the two corpses inside the car and went back to Rome, and left the car just under the place in which one of them lived, and went to have an ice cream. during the night. And after a while, the girl who survived started to
Knock on
to
the-
make to knock
Yeah.
on and to make noise, and the police arrived. They opened this how do you call it?
The boot.
The
boot
boot,
of
the
yeah.
boot of the car, and they didn't understand what was inside. There is a very famous photograph, because for a
Yes.
strange chance there was a photograph, not
I
not a
know.
police
I
one.
wanted to put it up there, but It's
I think
there.
that no kind of literature or words or
Mhm.
telling can compare this photograph, in which the girl still alive, all covered with blood, comes out the boot, and just in this moment the Carabiniers understand that the other strange
bundled up in
Yeah.
a blanket.
in a
or-
blanket is a dead girl. Two of these killers were taken just in because they were buzzing around, as sometimes they say that the murderers that they don't want to leave the
Mhm.
place in which they want to be captured, and actually is exactly what they did, because they were captured because they were found at 3 in the night
Right.
walking around. The third one actually never was never arrested, and after a long chase around the world, it has been discovered in the 2005 that he is dead, and he's buried in Morocco.
Wow.
In Morocco, under a false name, under a false identity of, how do you say, legionario?
Mhm.
French legionnaire.
French
Legionary.
legionary, yes.
Yeah, but of the Spanish branch of
Mhm.
the Legion. And so apparently he is dead. He's dead.
So I
And
did.
they were my schoolmates. That's the
Okay.
only reason why I wrote this book.
This is the clue of the book, but really, as you say, it's not the main focus of your book, right? Because the main focus is La scuola cattolica, education in Italy, masculinity models, sexual education, and so forth. So the great part of your book is the context, and
The context, right.
an investigation of the context that led to this murder, this crime.
I don't know if it led,
Yes.
really led, mechanically led to this crime, but as a writer, I thought that it was useless, and I could not add anything to the things already written and known if I'd write about the crime. But I could write something about the families in which they were very similar to my family, the family of the killers. The same school, the priests, our teachers, the idea of male identity, in which this was a only male school at that time. After just 5 or 6 years I left school, it became a, how do you say, misto?
Co-ed.
Co-ed.
Yes.
Only because, not because of any ideological progress, just because to have more students, because the simple thing of not having girls after a while takes the school to the collapse. And so let's say that all the things that were written about this crime were written until my book to mark the difference between let's say people like me, or people like normal people, and the killers. While I wrote about all we had in common, all the similar things, all the things we share, I share with them. I think there are two different kind of morality. The very easy one is to separate yourself from the evil, And this was the reaction, especially from the male part of the public.
Right.
They are monsters. We have nothing to do with this kind of violence. We condemn it. We don't want to be in any way compared or confused with the killers. And there is another level of morality, more difficult to deal with, that is to discover and to analyze and to tell what actually we have in common with evil, what part of us is contaminated by the same evil. Also because I think that a crime like this one was really a contaminated, very contaminating. All the quiet society of this neighborhood, all the families, all girls and boys and parents were like, how do you say, really?
An enclave.
Something happened, and it was impossible to take the time back, and except trying to separate, to refuse any discussion about that.
Right.
It was something that cannot be faced, and I tried with my book to face it in the easiest way.
Right.
In the easiest way, that is sincerity.
So it's a responsibility. You feel this as a moral responsibility.
Usually, I don't like very much the
The-
use of moral when you write, but there is a moral position in writing that is writing without rhetoric, and so without indignation, without false passion, without pretending to be scandalized by what you are, because you are the scandal.
Right, right.
So don't be afraid to be a scandal.
Right.
While very often, especially in Italian literature, there is a sort of a how do you say, absolving position in which the writer judge the reality and like separating good from evil.
So, wow, already? Oh, golly. So I wanted to go back to your other works because they are so much part of your career, but also they depict another version of Rome and Rome's life and your life in Rome. But time goes by so quickly. So at this point, let's just insert something about your first novel, because it's another aspect of Rome. So we are talking about all this mentality, this lifestyle and customs in Rome, especially of a particular class, right? But Rome is also immigration, right? And you have demonstrated an interest also. It's like a civic, a socially engaged interest, although you work on it with some sort of flair, because Il Polacco Lavavetri, your first one, was about Polish immigrants in Rome, and a very common vision for any Roman, stopping at the traffic lights, and you would have these Polish, but not only Polish.
At that time,
yes,
they were Polish.
Cleaning your windshield, right? But yours is like an ironic take on this section of Rome's population and immigration in Rome at that time. Tell us more about this aspect also of this city. Immigration at that time and how it affected life in Rome, but also how is immigration affecting Rome today?
Well, when I wrote the book, the immigration was very thin phenomenon. It was caused more by the fact of having a Polish pope. So at that time, during the crisis of the eastern countries, this was the first time we had immigrants, because you know that Italy it has been a country of people who were going abroad So we were the immigrants usually for more than 60 or 70 years, from the beginning of the century until the 60s. Or it has officially been declared finished, the Italian immigration abroad in the 70s. Exactly in these same years, the process started to go the other way round, and the first ones to arrive were the Polish people, and this was very, very strange for the common image of the immigrant who comes from the south of the world, so is darker, so is is the usual one, the one who is happening now, people coming from Africa or from whatever. In this case, we had these blonde, tall, sometimes very handsome men. At the beginning, they were just men. It was a very strange. I must confess that more than from the civic or political or ethic point of view, I was astonished by the aesthetical presence of these, let's say, angels. It's very easy to start working with your fantasy about this fact that being Catholic, being tall and blonde, they were perfectly, they were matching the idea of especially in a southern country as Italy is, where blonde is
the perfection,
the perfection
yes.
of the light or the pure or the good or whatever. So I wrote a pure fiction novel about them without knowing at all that I was the first one to deal with this, that in a few years would have become a real issue, a real political issue, not because of Polish, but because of all other ethnic immigration. Until now, there is a European problem, very, very, very heavy, and Italy is just like is just there in this position. So it's the door of all this. While 90% of the people arriving, they don't want to stay in Italy, or they just want to cross Italy, and is at the same time easy and very difficult for them, and that's the reason why I didn't imagine that I was opening an era, because I was just interested in this. And furthermore, some of these characters in this novel are taken straight from mythology. So the very beautiful girl, Polish girl, is like a heroine of Ovid, and so I didn't.
Classical,
very classical. And I didn't think to make, let's say, a political statement about something that was not at the time a political issue.
I brought that up because it clashes also with the type of picture you painted, the Roman bourgeois in Coppede, in Quartiere Trieste, this kind of enclosed type of community that is shocked by the murder you talked about, but also there are other parts of Roman life and society at the time that are probably shocking also for people of the same background. And it was interesting that you wrote about immigration way ahead of time, way before the problem really emerged. I am sorry, but the time is expiring quickly, and I would like you to be able to also ask some questions, so I don't want to hog all of the time we have left, and I don't know how much time we do. Okay, so I am going to let you ask whatever question, allow you to ask any question, and please feel free to
Did you personally know the students who did the crime, and did you ever imagine they could do something like that? And did they get sentenced with the Jesuits?
Yes, I knew them because I was in school with them, and furthermore, one of the two, Angelo Izzo, had a brother, a smaller brother, who was in my classroom, so it was my age. The killers were born 1 year before me, but I went very often to the house of Angelo Izzo to study with his brother. Being at that time the family quite having a lot of children, these middle class families, it was quite common to have in this only male school 2 or 3 brothers of different age, and so yes, I knew them very well, and I thought that they were bastards, but you know, with this kind of the way in which you are bastards in school, nothing more than this. They punch in the face someone, or they broke the glasses of one of my schoolmates, and but they did things. They were fascist.
Bullies.
No, more it was more political color, let's say. But they showed their way of being fascist, not in a political way, but more with arrogance, with. But I didn't know when the big crime happened that just after the school they were already been on trial for rape. I didn't know that. Because leaving the school, I didn't follow the stories and path. So they were already in judgment for the rape of one girl, and then they, let's say, upgrade the area, escalate.
They were not in jail.
They were in jail for a while because they were released on parole after a while. There was a very strong economical compensation to the victim of the first rapes, and but after that they were sentenced for life. But you know, in Italy you are sentenced for life, but usually we don't do more than 30 years. So the real reason why I wrote the book is the fact that in 2005, so exactly 30 years after the first crime, one of them that was on parole committed another crime. He killed two women, mother and her daughter. She was like 14 years old. Without, it was not a sex crime. He just strangled them and buried them. This was the reason I wrote the book, because if there wasn't this, how do you say, return of flame, it was like the eternal return of the blood of the crime that obliged me in a way to reconsider the first story. Because I didn't want to write about that. I would have never. I've been called. I can call it really a vocation, a vocation. In 2005, and after 1 year of trying to understand how to tell the story, what to write about, I started.
I'm very curious about your activity, also about your activity as a teacher in prisons, right?
Mm-hmm.
You said that you teach history and Italian. Is it Italian language or also the literature?
Both.
Both.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what is
I have to teach Italian to Italians.
Right,
Not
I was
only
going to ask,
to
since we spoke about immigration, if the students are all Italian students or also from other places, from countries. And I guess it's an open question, I guess. I'd like to say a little more about what the motivation of these inmates is for studying, especially literature.
Spend
I
time.
think I can see the reasons for history, but also
I can answer immediately. Spend time. Spend time.
Because it's a way for them to.
It's a way of
engage in
doing something.
meaningful.
It's a
But
way
how
of
is that
doing
meaningful
something.
to them? And why literature rather than something else? That would be.
Well, I teach in a school that has the main aim of the school is how do you say, informatic. So I'm the teacher of Italian, but among professors of math, of computers and whatever, I'm the only one who makes, let's say, humanistic teaching. But the main push for them is to go out of their room. How do you say?
So
Do
you're
something
To do something,
useful,
to spend time,
or purposeful.
to see people,
Uh-huh.
to see people who are not guards, who are not lawyers. So we are the only.
They wouldn't be interested in that otherwise.
I think the main interest is a human one and not really. Is
Intellectual.
focused. Is not intellectual. It's not purely intellectual. Some of them, there are some of them who are like young nerds. Nerds are everywhere, also in jail, but it's just 1 on 100, let's say. It's interesting. It's an interesting place for teaching because
Studying like that would have benefited or somehow helped the murders of the Chilcheo crime if they had the intention and constancy for.
who knows? Who knows? I don't know if they studied in jail. Studying in itself is not a warranty. It doesn't give you any insurance against the fact of continuing, keeping on your criminal life or not. That's for sure. I teach a sonnet of Petrarch to a Morocco drug dealer. I don't know if this is going to change his life or as soon as he will be released, he will start again selling and buying the same stuff.
Come Zero nel Maggio Selvaggio.
Zero, unfortunately, is dead.
Uh-huh.
Zero is the boy I opened this book with. It was a very, very fat boy who died of overdose just 2 years after the book was written. Yeah. So also the fact of having these kind of students that changes a lot or are released or die or they are moved to other prisons teaches you to be very very focused on having outcome almost immediate from every single hours you spend there. You cannot make plans for 5 years for the future. So the future doesn't exist at all. There is only present. This time, this one, the same hour we are living now together in this moment, and we have to squeeze from this hour all everything we can, because we don't know. I don't know if now I'm on leave for being here. I'm on leave. I will be next Monday again there, and probably there will be something changed among my man.
How much? Yes.
In la scuola cattolica, about this crime of Chilcheo, you say that many times that the press was focused on the killers, but not on the victims. We almost know anything about them, and especially about the girl who survived. We have lost her traces. We know that she survived, and then we don't know anything else about her. And I was wondering why you two, you don't tell anything of the book on her, as long as the only to have an insight on the killers, but also on the victims.
That's a good point. That was made many times about this book, but I can write only. I didn't make any research about the killers as well. I just knew them. I just knew how they felt, how they thought, how they lived, and I could use all my imagination and fantasy to make an intensification of these things that I already knew. I knew nothing about the victims, and I didn't want to. And I didn't want to make a book about, let's say, balanced. So the killers and the victims.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just about the killers. It's just about men. All the female characters are
In the
like background, or they are up or down. They are never in the center. It's a quality, or maybe a failure of the book. I don't know, but I didn't want to invent. I didn't want to invent on victims. Someone did in Italy. Someone wrote a really awful book about the thought of a victim, or especially the one who didn't survive. So fantasizing about what she felt during the violence. I thought it was out of my reach. So that's why the school is the only male school, and this is the only male book. There are sisters, mothers, fiancés, women raped, women loved, but they're always like
Secondary characters.
they could win the Oscar for
Runner-up.
how do you say
Supporting
roles. Supporting roles in this case, yeah. The next book is a little more balanced, but this one is and a very interesting fact that happened that many women read the book because she was interested in this male world. So it's quite strange that almost nobody complained about the fact that there were such a few parts for women in this book.
Please.
Well, thank you very much for this conversation. A comment and then a question. As I hear you speak, there's two words that keep on coming back to me, and that is individuality, and also the word roles. And you've had you have a series of roles in displaying who you are. And I'm curious if you would comment on your place, because it's kind of like a garden. You flourish here and you flourish in another area, and while
I
think
flourished,
maybe
and what's the opposite?
No, you don't.
Uh,
You just flourish.
Okay.
So I don't want to say what is the role of the writer and what is your role, but I'm curious as to how you see yourself in this place of time.
To be sincere, to me the problem is just of energy. It's just a physical problem. The fact that I have to waste a lot of energy around, scattering around. That's why my career is so contradictory as a writer and also as a man. So I did many different things just because I had to spend myself somewhere, somehow, in different direction. Only at the end, I hope there will be a sort of design in this going around. And also, these books, so different one from the other, will probably at the end I hope this end will be not so soon, but will form a shape of significant shape. But the reality is that I have to throw myself in something in which I'm lost. Teaching in jail is one of these is my main fun and my main hobby, and it's absurd. I know on Monday when I'll be there in these places that nobody in the world would like to stay in. I will ask again myself what I'm doing here, what the hell am I doing here, and I will do. So writing is another way of consuming and wasting yourself, staying stupidly still at the table or doing nothing actually except playing with words. That from an ethical point of view, I think it's quite ununderstandable.
I have a question about the character that narrates Las
Mm-hmm.
because obviously it's you from some point of view, it has your experience from school, your job, but sometimes it feels like it's not, like it's fiction, of course, or at least the narration is fictionalized. So I know I shouldn't ask this to the author, but to what point it's you and to what point it's not, if you can tell me without going too deep into it, of course.
Well, in a word, it's not me. That's very simple. It's not me, but this voice is built using large, huge chunks of my experience, myself. But as a literary creature, this narrator couldn't be exactly like me, because I needed to have, for instance, a contrast with the other, let's say, the co-protagonist, the main character of the book, that is my schoolmate Arbus. So I had to make Arbus, well, Arbus was really clever, and I could not be so clever as a character. So I'm a little, I think I am more clever than the narrator of the book.
You are certainly less irritated.
No, and I'm not better, but but the problem is that I don't know who I am, so I cannot say that is exactly me or not. I exaggerated some tendencies. For instance, in the book, I say that I always cry, and it's true. I cry quite often, but not always. This character is never able to cope with the reality. Never. I'm able 50-50 always. So is what I called intensification. I don't know if it's a word that sounds or means anything in English.
Magnification, yes.
Doing it's what usually poetry do with the reality, you know, to make it deeper, stronger, more touching, more something than bigger than reality. What usually you say bigger than reality. So I think that in the narrative you need the same. So you have to do things bigger or weaker than reality. Anyway, reality is not a. You cannot use it because you don't know what it is, and if you are linked forever just to a reproduction a reproduction it's strangling, suffocating for a writer. So I must tell you one thing that it surprised me a lot. The real person who's behind the character of Arbus, after I published the book, reappeared after 30 years or 40 years in my life. He liked the book. He liked the fact that I used him as a sort of model for a character, many things of which were completely invented, and the part invented were quite heavy for a real person to accept. And he accepted it. He liked that. He liked this joke, this playing with personality or individuality. So he is a genius. In the book, I tell him that Arbus was a genius, and I had to confirm that the real Arbus is a genius because he's ready to be used by the play of life and literature. So he's really an open-minded person because he didn't defend himself saying, "Oh, I didn't do that, I didn't do that, I'm different." The same thing I did with me. I used myself, I used my body and memory and soul, and I don't have any respect for life. I must tell you that life is, I like life, but the way of transforming, I like that's why I like mythology in which you change, you are a girl and become a tree or things like this. Yeah, you can become an animal, or my favorite character, Tiresia, you can be both man and woman. That's fantastic. I would like very much to have this privilege, but I'm confined in my body.
So we would have needed 3 or 4 hours for what I had in mind. I thought we had plenty more time. 1 hour looks like a lot of time, but then when you actually use it, it's not enough. So I think we have to stop here also because my friends, the technicians above, need to stop and get going. But thank you very much, and I hope you all enjoyed this opportunity, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.